Welcome back to What's New in the Lou with Alexis Zotos, presented by Caldy's Coffee and recorded right here at Bucket List Podcast Studios. This is your can't miss weekly podcast where we are keeping you in the know of the new restaurants, the events that you need to put on your calendar, and most importantly, the people that continue to make our community the best place to live and visit. Now, don't forget, you got to stick around until the end of each episode because we are going to drop a weekly calendar for you so you know exactly what's going on this week. And you don't feel left out when you see it all on social media come Monday morning. Now, I'm really excited about my guest this week. He is somebody that is known locally, but also nationally and maybe internationally. John O'Leary, thank you so much for joining us.
What a fun introduction. I don't know if I'm even known locally, but I'm grateful to be on your podcast today, Alexis.
You know, I don't know if people have heard, there is a little Hollywood film all about your life that is right now in theaters and soon to be streaming. So people can watch it. It's called Soul on Fire. I want to dive into the movie version, but first I want to know just about you and introduce you to our listeners and watchers. Tell us your story, John.
Grab your favorite Caldy's Coffee listeners and viewers, or something far stronger, because this is going to be a minute. You know, I think I will answer your question, but kind of in a longer form answer than you might be expecting. I think the wild part about my story is I never knew I had one. So the story seems like it's a little boy gets burned. Seems like it's a story of Jack Buck, the radio announcer, showing up, and Nurse Roy, and what mom and dad did, and how unlikely it is for a child to survive burns to 100% of his body. That just does not happen. And back in 1987 at Mercy Hospital, it happened. It took 5 months. It took a ton of support from around St. Louis community, around the country, around the world. Ronald Reagan and Nancy were praying for us, Pope John Paul II, and it happened globally. But as I alluded to, the wildest thing about it all is, and I never told a soul. Really? So I come home from hospital, and the promise I made to myself as a child was be ordinary, not stand out, not have films made, not be on your podcast, fit in, be gray matter. And so I did that for 20 years. And then at a church service, actually, in the back row, hungover from the night before, I heard a pastor say, your life is a precious, priceless gift. And with that gift, you've got one job: say yes to being used for good. And as sometimes it happens in life, the following day, perfect timing, I get a phone call from a Girl Scout who says, Mr. John, will you speak at my school? In the movie, you've seen it.
Yeah.
It's a woman who pulls up and then invites me to speak to 6 Girl Scouts. In reality, it's a girl who calls, and it's 3 Girl Scouts. It's not even 6, man. So Hollywood has made it up again. But the wild thing is, I would have never, ever, ever said yes to that call had it not been for an invitation the day before to recognize that my life was a precious gift and I had a job. It wasn't construction. It wasn't speaking. It wasn't being on podcast. It was merely to say yes to being used for good. And I have been saying yes for the last 21 years. And it has led to speaking in 2,800 different organizations, 50 states, dozens of countries, a couple books, a movie, your podcast, and who knows what's next. But again, none of it is about me. And really, none of it is really about being burned. It's about people showing up for people when they need them, what they can do, what you and I can do, and how we can change the world for good.
I think that's so inspiring. It's really helpful, having seen the movie. And if people haven't seen it, you've got to. It's just this really incredible, inspirational story, and made even cooler because it's filmed right here in St. Louis, and is just this beautiful love letter to our city. But I think what's interesting, you talk about that first moment speaking to these Girl Scouts. In the movie, it's very portrayed as uncomfortable and awkward. Do you remember it feeling that way well?
So you mentioned the film was shot here in St. Louis. Right on. How cool that when you see a house burning, it's my mom and dad's house. Yeah. It's in DePere. When you see John dancing later, 20 years later with this girl at the quad, that's St. Louis University. When you see him get married, the Shrine of St. Joseph, it's the shrine where John and Beth get married. When you see John and his dad walking around in front of a courthouse with the arch in the background, that's not on some Hollywood set. It's Keener Plaza. So it was important for us not only to get the details of the story right, but to get the locations of the story right. And we did. So then you asked about the question of John speaking. It's such an awkward, there's so much awkward about the movie. It pains me because it's the true story about my life. And I don't encourage any of you to have a movie made about your life, okay? If someone comes to you and says, I think I should do a movie about my life, just run from that person.
Okay, good advice.
But yeah, that first speech, it was filmed actually in Maplewood. It was actually delivered out in West County somewhere to a group of 3 Girl Scouts. In truth, I did get sick before I walked in, but I walked in, Alexis. Like, that's the part of life that we give up on. It's like, it got hard, so I quit on it.
Mhm.
And I think looking back on my life, I'm not that impressed by so many of the decisions I've made, but if there's something impressive that I did do, it is in the face of adversity. I shut my eyes, said a prayer, and kept moving forward.
How did you do it? There's a lot of people who are listening who could probably relate to that feeling of fear of stepping outside of their comfort zone, whether it's to give a speech, whether it's to take the leap to a new job, whether it's to start a family, whatever it is that they're facing. What do you say to people to inspire them to do what's scary?
Right. Nothing worthy has come from something easy.
Mm.
And we should just say that on repeat
Yeah.
until finally people either hear it or fall asleep. But really, nothing. Think about your life. Can you think of one single worthy thing that came out of something super easy? Like even like I hated academics as a kid, but my best teachers weren't the easy ones. The ones where I got A's, they were the ones I hated. I hated these people, and I still remember their classes because that's where I learned. As a child going through burn care, the nurses and therapists who did the best work were the ones who hurt me the most. But it is in their love and in their efforts that I stretched and became a different version of myself. And so I would encourage folks. There's a quote from Henry Nouwen that growth is the only evidence of life. Pretty cool.
I like that.
And the way you grow is not through passivity. It's not by waking up hoping you win the lottery. I would,
That'd be nice though.
you know what?
No?
Most lottery winners end up drunk
This
and
is
broke.
true. This is true.
And
The
their family
stats
ends
are
up
not
resenting
good.
them. It's not good. So in a marketplace that is more frequent than ever to gamble, and I know
Mhm.
this isn't like, John, what are you doing here? Like, now next, are you going to tell us not to drink coffee? Can we have no fun? I'm not saying don't have fun. I'm just inviting you to recognize where growth will come from.
Mm.
And it will not be on the back end of a lottery ticket or on the heels of something done easily. It's always through the hard stuff. All of that to say, John, what would you say to someone who's thinking about doing something hard? Do it. Shut your eyes, say a prayer, take a risk, fall on your face, get back up, learn the lessons, wash and repeat. My second speech was worse than my first.
How so?
I forgot the note cards.
Okay. Those are
So
important sometimes.
you should have no note cards when you're delivering speeches at some point, but in the early days, you need them.
Mhm.
And at some point, you need to recognize, commit to it, be all in, practice in the mirror 100 times, practice in front of a tape recorder, get out and have a little bit of courage for yourself. But my second speech was to a group of Rotarians. And I stood up there awkwardly, hemming and hawing, talked about Abraham Lincoln because I forgot my note cards. And I remembered a bit about Lincoln failing forward. And so but the point is, from that, it led to a Kiwanis group.
Mm.
And then from that, a Chamber of Commerce. And then from that, I'm starting to get the reps in, then a prison, as you saw in the film. Remember,
Yeah.
John puts the note cards down. It's a true story. Was able to look out at about 60 inmates and just speak from the heart. And when you're able to do that authentically, it does something radical. It opens up inmates or Rotarians or classmates or CEOs where they are seated today.
When was the moment that you sort of realized, hey, this public speaking thing, like this could be my calling? Was there one moment that it sort of clicked that could be the career path for you?
Yeah, I mean, you see it in the film a little bit, depending on how you want to watch the scene. There's a moment where John is speaking to inmates. It's a true story. Like the story you watch is accurate, and it's not a perfect presentation, but he's delivering it in such a way where it's opening up people's hearts. Not all of them,
Mhm.
as you also see,
Mhm.
but some. And then I invite people to share what they're grateful for being in prison, which was a pretty bold ask. And everyone's kind of making fun of me, but one guy stands up and says, man, I'll share what I'm grateful for. And he talks first about 3 square meals.
Mhm.
Heat in the winter, air in the summer. Got my GED in here, man. Soap, hot water. He goes through this list. And so by the end of it, he sits down and people stand up applauding. That is a true story. And so one of the people who happen to be in that room today is your guest today, John O'Leary. And I recognize there's something that happens when you share this story authentically that changes hearts and minds. And that allowed me to do the next one and the next one and the next one. It was probably 3 years in before I got my first paycheck.
Okay.
So if you're
Also a
like,
good reminder for people that
John, is
sometimes
this a quick, are you saying this is a get rich quick
Yeah,
scheme?
not so much.
No, not exactly. But if your scheme in life is to have value, eventually the money comes alongside of you. You recognize this in podcasting and whatever the work you do is, if your effort is ultimately around being of value to others, money will track you down in time.
All right. So the movie, when did that begin? How did somebody find your story and say, this feels like it needs to be made into a
Right.
movie? Which now that we look at it, of course, this needs to be made into a movie. But how did someone find you?
You were the premiere, right?
Yes.
So we
It
had
was a fabulous night to see Powell Hall just all dressed up for all of Hollywood to see. Amazing.
I'm biased. I think it's one of the coolest things that's happened to St. Louis
Yeah.
in 100 years.
It was
And
really
that may
awesome.
sound like, John, it's a little audacious, but red carpet, all the actors, reporters from New York and LA in our backyard.
Yeah.
Not covering some sports event, and I love sports.
Sure.
But covering a uniquely St. Louis event, not 9 guys on the field who fly home afterwards, or 11 guys on a pitch, or 22 guys on AstroTurf, but celebrating nurses and doctors and janitors and neighbors and siblings who make their home here and make St. Louis unique here. That's what we celebrated that night. That's what LA saw. That's what the red carpet was rolled out. And one of my favorite comments, and then I will answer your question, Bill Macy, William H. Macy, says, I had to come to St. Louis to recognize what a premiere should look like.
Oh, I love that.
And he didn't say it to me. He said it on a microphone to 2,300 and to thousands tuning in around the world. So it's true. We have something special here. You celebrate this on your podcast. And so often we celebrate what's worst with our community. And Soul on Fire celebrates what's best. So where did the story come from? Well, yeah, John getting burned and eventually becoming a speaker. But in Las Vegas in January of 2017, I spoke to 27,000 people.
Wow.
At the MGM Grand. We did a book signing afterwards. And there was a woman who approached me named Linda. And she asked simply the question, have you ever thought about, and she held up my book, turning this story into a film? And I said, no, I've never, that's ridiculous. I would never be so audacious. And she said, could I try? And this goes back to that earliest comment. Your life is a precious gift. You got one job. What is the answer? Say yes.
Yeah. Say yes.
So I said, yeah, you can try. But I never assumed she would do it. Right.
Caldy's Coffee has been proudly roasting in St. Louis since 1994. Guided by a commitment to quality, service, and community, Caldy's strives to make every cup a moment of discovery. And get this, thanks to the support of their St. Louis community and fans across the country, they were named USA Today's #1 coffee chain in 2024. Visit Caldy'sCoffee.com to find your nearest cafe, shop coffee for home, or even book a free tour and cupping at their roastery. Follow the GOAT to your next great coffee experience. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
And then what happened is
Because I'm sure the stats on like how many like ideas to make into a movie versus how many actually get made into a movie, it must be a large number.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
And mathematically, it's think how many good stories there are and how many get brought forward. And then you even hear like stories of Matt Damon getting his hands on things and funding, and it still falls apart.
Yeah.
Or then they make the movie and it sits on some shelf. So the math run coming out into a theater from development stages, it just does not ever happen. So I assumed it would never happen. And then about 4 years ago, we recognized it's moved forward, but it's not going to happen unless we step forward. And that's when, I have a board of advisors, Rusty Keeley, among other guys who you've heard of, Keeley Company here in St. Louis. And I started asking my friends to help. And in life, if you're trying to do this by yourself or you're trying to do it passively, hoping someone else will, it won't happen. But if you believe in it, tell people the vision, cast a future of what this could look like and why it matters to St. Louis and to them. So these leaders started stepping forward. They started to invest financially in it. They started to make connections. We raised the required funds. We started booking the talent. I started inviting people like Bill Macy and Devon Franklin, who you met that night, the guy who plays Roy, John Corbett, who plays my dad.
Love.
So do I. I mean, I'm relatively straight, and I love John Corbett. Like, every time I'm with him, he's just handsome. Like, there's just charisma that exudes from him.
He's just, I mean, as somebody growing up, just watching him in the rom-coms of our generation, fabulous. I loved his comment, though, actually, about St. Louis, that he was in awe of our architecture. And that was, as a St. Louis girl, it's always amazing to see others come into our city.
Right.
And see the beauty that we take for granted every day.
Yes.
And I loved that comment from him that night at the premiere.
So the comment that led to him giving that comment came from Sean McNamara, the director. McNamara came in town. He shot Soul Surfer and Reagan and now Soul on Fire, among 100 other films. So Sean's a successful guy. But I brought him in town primarily to fundraise and then meet my mom and dad. And while I'm taking him on a tour of where all the things happen, so Jefferson Barracks is where Jack Buck is buried, and mom and dad live out here, and Mercy Hospital's here. And I take him on a tour of the Shrine, Keener Plaza, and then St. Louis University. We're walking around SLU, and at first we're in the quad. He's like, "What is this place?" I'm like, "It's my quad, man." And then I take him to Couples House, which is this place like, when you're a student, you walk by it. It's this turn of the century mansion that we just ignore as kids. Because why would you care about a building you don't walk into?
Sure.
He says, "What is this place?" "Well, this is college." We walking by the clock tower, walking by the cathedral on campus. And he's like, "John, why are films not shot here?" He's like, "I've never seen a college more beautiful." And I thought he was just being sweet. So I said, "Thanks, man." He goes, "Dude, I'm being serious. I've never seen a more beautiful college." He's like, "We got to shoot the film here." So when he recognized we needed to shoot in St. Louis was not at the Arch or the Shrine or Busch Stadium, because you can make all that three-dimensionally afterwards. When he recognized we needed to shoot at St. Louis was St. Louis University and the architecture, the beauty, man.
And you guys did it. You filmed here. I actually covered one of your filming days here in Maplewood when I was working at Channel 4, which was very cool. It's always fun to see a movie set in our backyard. How important was it for you, in addition to highlighting, yes, the big places, SLU, Busch Stadium, but those like little moments, like how cool was that?
That's the best part now. There's two best parts now. Now is how historically accurate it is. And when you see the scenes, you see Humphreys. Yeah, you see Tiffany's Diner. It's not like, "Oh, I bet that's a cute place somewhere out west." That's our home. And we take for granted the air we breathe. So go watch Soul on Fire, and you're going to be in awe of our people and our places. So that's cool. And one more cool piece about it is they shot the scenes where they happen, including the fire, including the homecoming, including some conversations with my dad when I was a kid. And now that I've lost my father, to have this heirloom of the moments where they happened, with the actors portraying the guys who brought them forward into life as a love letter, not just to our broad community, but to my specific family, my place of origin. And so to shoot the scenes where they happened, and then as they say, "Cut," I would go to like the trailers and I would have the truck drivers, these St. Louisans, say, "Man, I just want to thank you for bringing film back to St. Louis." And I'm like, "You're welcome." And the first time it's like, "That's weird." And then the makeup folks would say, "Dude, I just want to thank you for letting me sleep in my own bed tonight." I'm like, "Wow." And then the folks who work the meals, like, and 500 people per day at work, creating art, something that matters, because of a project that we thought would just be about making a movie. But what it really did is it put people back to work, gave people pride and agency to recognize we can do more of this. And since then, they've rolled out 7 additional filmings here.
It's huge. And it's such I mean, if we look at, again, another thing that I spent years covering was bringing these sort of film tax credits back to Missouri. We look at what they did for Georgia when movies set in Missouri are being filmed outside of Missouri. But now they're back. We're seeing these movies, whether they're smaller, bigger, medium-sized budgets, they're coming back to our state. And that's huge for the economy.
It is huge. And it's huge for pride.
Yeah.
There was a movie, the last full feature film before Soul on Fire was Up in the Air.
Yeah. Which, I was in college during that movie, so I wasn't here for it. And just getting the text from family and friends, "I saw George Clooney." I'm like, "What?
I know.
I live in LA and I don't ever get to see George Clooney."
And we had something good happening. And then we cut it off at the knees.
Yeah.
And we take pride in Clooney walking through our airport, and one scene where he's in a hotel room. Well, listen, guys, like now there's a scene where John Corbett's walking around on the arch grounds and a church where Joel Courtney from, if you don't know him, your daughter does because he's really popular with like 15 to 25-year-olds. He's getting married to a gorgeous girl named Macy McLean in one of our churches. And like, there's just so much to be grateful for in our community. And as we bring back these films, we'll see more and more and more of it.
Okay, I have to ask, how weird was it casting you, your wife, your family? I mean, how of a weird, surreal feeling was that?
Yeah, I don't recommend it. It's not something that you should do unless you've talked to your counselor in great detail lately. It's wild casting them, but then that's sort of superficial. Like, so great, you're going to play my wife.
Yeah.
So like, but what does that mean? And then all of a sudden, her name was Macy McLean. You see a girl wearing your wife's actual wedding dress.
Such a cool.
In the church where you actually get married. The girl playing Beth actually looks like Beth, becomes a dear friend while we're shooting together. Joel Courtney has this weird John energy while he's in front of the camera. Like I resent him almost because I realize how replaceable I am. I thought it would be AI. Now I realize it's already been done by Joel Courtney. He just took on my mannerisms. Bill Macy did a great job with Jack Buck. Stephanie Shostak, who was born in France, became my mom. They have the same energy. Devon Franklin, who plays Nurse Roy, became Nurse Roy. And to see all of these people step forward into that role in a meaningful way and to just crush it. You find on set, like I had always assumed Hollywood was arrogant, and maybe it is, but the part of it I had touched was humble, and they were for everybody else. The actors were for every other actor. They were for the dietary folks. They were for the folks driving the vans. They were just cheering for everybody else to win. And in that collective rooting, the film won. Because even in shooting in St. Louis and getting the thing edited, it means nothing. It may not live anywhere, but they did it in such an incredible way that Sony sat up and says, we want it, which doesn't happen. And then they roll it into theaters, which never happens. It was the number 5 film by a box office.
That's amazing.
And it remains the number 1 rated film of 2025, according to Rotten Tomatoes.
What? That's huge. So, I don't know. Do you take that and allow yourself to sit with what that means? Or is your humbleness not letting you sort of absorb that?
It's a little bit of yes, but the humbleness is just honesty. So what does it mean? Here's what I think it means. I think we're sick of watching boys in tights fight crime. I think we're sick of watching machismo girls wear tight clothes and beat back the monsters. I think there's a time and a place to watch a squirrel who can talk and shoot a laser gun. But in a world that is as divided as ours and as filled with as much animosity as ours and as much hatred as ours, to watch a true story of true heroes step forward in a truly meaningful way to fight real crime, which is hopelessness, which is despair, which is isolation, which is brokenness and ugliness. That's what they're fighting. And it was real. And so when people are leaving the theaters, the worst of the critics are saying, I don't believe it. In fact, one of the critics, my favorite, I printed it up, the review, it's in my office. And then I'll tell you your friend Patrick Barry's favorite review. But my favorite review is, there's no way this story actually happened. And then it said, there's no way the O'Reilly house could be built that quickly after a fire. There's no way John O'Reilly could survive the fire. And there's no way Jack Buck would come into John O'Reilly's life. So they get my name wrong.
Okay, I'm saying here, I'm like,
yeah, you're like, I thought I was interviewing O'Leary, but who knows?
Wait, I'm about to Google over it. You can make me
Irishmen
singing the O'Reilly Auto Parts song.
That's right. So I think that is priceless. So that's my favorite review. So if you want to be cynical and get the details wrong, you can.
Right.
And then Patrick's very favorite reviewer gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Said, I felt like I was watching somewhere between a deeply inspirational film and a commercial for Budweiser. 3 out of 5 stars. So that also sits at my desk.
I was going to say, that's a solid St. Louis review right there.
3 out of 5. That sounds like 5 out of 5 to me. We made a commercial for Bud, the king of beers, and we got some inspiration in there.
Right? Yeah, that feels like a win-win.
But the vast majority of folks left not judging my name wrong or criticizing the fact that we, in fact, did rebuild that home. Here's what that review truly missed. A child gets burned on 100% of his body, survives, and you're not even looking at that part of the story. You're talking about homes being
The home
rebuilt,
being built.
which happened. We have pictures of the homecoming
Yeah.
reviewer in Portland. We can send them your way. But the point is 98% of folks left that theater changed for good. And so I don't, you said, John, is it hard to stay humble? No, because I'm not the main character.
Mm.
I'm the recipient of the love that others gave and the invitation we have to do likewise for others. You don't need to be looking at a burned kid to recognize maybe I can do something.
Yeah. And now even more people have the opportunity to watch this, to see this film because it's going to be streaming. How cool is that to learn that it's going to be accessible to so many more people? I'll be the first to say it's been a minute since I've stepped foot into a movie theater. I have young kids, so it's harder, but streaming, people can watch it. So many more people are going to get to see and experience your story and the story of St. Louis.
Right. We had maybe 1 million people go to theaters. So although you do not go with your young children,
A lot of
somehow
people do.
I mean, my mom.
I can't wait. I am going to go see Wicked. That is going to be one of those things.
That's when you find the time.
I'm getting the babysitter.
Get the babysitter. 1 million people went.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And now as you stream out, apparently Amazon and the future streamers, they don't like the term stream. They like digital.
Oh, okay.
So
sorry.
It's not streaming, it's
digital.
I don't know what the difference is, but now digitally you can stream the film Soul on Fire on Amazon and millions of lives will be influenced for good. And here's been my favorite part, not the reviews, but the letters.
Oh.
And I've received letters already from former inmates, letters from addicts, letters from people who were considering taking their life and now no longer are considering that. A letter from a Vietnam vet who has not felt since he came home after 2 tours. He said, I sat down for Soul on Fire in some theater. Don't even know what drew me in. I wept for the entire hour and 40 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Bring your tissues, folks. My husband was weeping next to me
wild.
during the premiere.
And kids, I know yours are little, but we are getting letters from 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 15, 20. At all ages, this is a movie reminding people not to avoid death, but to to avoid death, but to step more boldly into their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's waking up hearts and minds around our country and beyond.
What comes next for you? You have a full plate. What's next?
I mean, scripturally, the verse that I like is seek justice, love mercy, walk humbly with God, which has very little to do with keynote speaking and movies. And my next book will be, it's humility and it's loving the next right step, starting at home. So that, to me, that's important. We've always used our megaphone. It started really small. It started with 3 Girl Scouts. That's not crushing. Right? And then it moved to 31 Rotarians and then 42 Kiwanis members and onward. But we've always viewed the mouthpiece we've received as a gift to do life with one person at a time. That's it. So now we're trying to scale impact individually, globally. And so I view the next iteration of how do we do life well with one person at a time? How do we respond appropriately to these letters we're getting in the hundreds? How do we love them where they are? How do we build a model that allows them to come on in, have their voice heard, and have their story elevated? So it really is about doing life individually with folks. I've got a relationship now with Mercy. I'm their spokesperson, which is a way of allowing me again to sneak back into hospitals and love on kids.
Yeah.
So it's not how many interviews can John do.
Mm-hmm.
It's how many individuals can he sneak into and encourage. I want to, I'm a Christian, and I think where Jesus does his best work is at the well. It's not in synagogue. It's not in front of 5,000 preaching. It's when no one's watching. So what I want to do better as this light gets brighter and brighter on my face is sneak away from it and use it so when you walk into a room, you have a little bit of a higher platform that I don't care about. But if the people do, awesome. Because if it makes them feel something they weren't going to feel otherwise, powerful. Our tagline organizationally is once expected to die, now teaching others how to truly live. And that's pretty awesome. So if I can sneak into rooms of individuals, coffee shops, platforms, whatever it might be, reminding people how to truly live, I will leverage that platform.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alexis.
All right, let's dive into what's going on in St. Louis this week. Here is your weekly calendar. First up, Les Mis opens at the Fox on November 18th and goes through the 23rd. Winterfest kicks off in Keener Plaza this Saturday, November 22nd. And that evening will also be the fabulous Amber, Missouri Festival of Lights tree lighting. Tower Grove Thanksgiving Farmers Market is Saturday, November 22nd. And if you are in the full holiday spirit, the Garden Glow is underway at the Missouri Botanical Garden. Thanks as always for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you know exactly what's going on in the Lou this week.